Welcome to SVG-TV News for Tuesday, September 28, 2021. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. A 48-year-old female who died today, Tuesday, September 28, of COVID-19 pneumonia is the 7th person in the country to die from the viral illness for the month and the 19th victim overall. A news release from the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, said the patient, who had underlying condition and was unvaccinated, tested positive for COVID-19 on September 26 and was admitted to the COVID-19 ward at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital. There are currently 19 patients admitted for COVID-19 at the Argyle Isolation Facility. 18 are unvaccinated and 1 partially vaccinated. 14 patients have also been admitted to the COVID-19 ward at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital. 13 are said to be unvaccinated and 1 partially vaccinated. 10 new COVID-19 positive cases were also reported today from 141 samples processed on Sunday, September 26, resulting in a positivity rate of 7.1%. 2 of the cases were detected on exit screen. All other cases or contacts of known positive cases and persons seeking care. 8 rapid antigen positive results were also reported for Sunday, September 26th. 90 new recoveries were noted over the reporting period. 943 cases are currently active and 19 persons with COVID-19 have died. 3,369 cases of COVID-19 and 2,407 recoveries have been recorded in St. Vincent and the Grenadines since March 2020. Meanwhile, the release from NEMO said the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment was informed by CAFRA of the COVID-19 sequencing results of 4 positive samples collected from patients here in SVG on August 30th and the 31st. The release said the samples were received at the CAFRA lab on September 2nd and the 4th and sent to the COVID-19 Impact Project Lab on September 8th and 10th. The COVID-19 Impact Project Lab reported on September 25th to CAFRA that the Gamma variant of concern was detected in 2 samples and the Mu variant of interest was detected in 2 samples. The release noted the samples are from Vincentians residents who tested positive for SARS-CoV-2 on August 30th and 31st and that these adults have not been vaccinated against COVID-19. It was, however, noted that these cases were isolated and have since tested negative for COVID-19. The health authorities say in view of the confirmed presence of the Delta, Mu and Gamma variants in the community and the significant increase in the number of new infections, transmission, severe COVID-19 disease and deaths, strict enforcement and compliance with all protocols and recommendations by everyone is strongly recommended. The uncertainty of what form of teaching will take place come next Monday, October 4th, 2021, when school reopens for the new academic year, is still undecided. This is according to Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, who on radio on Sunday said while face-to-face teaching is a better option, they are still unsure of this taking place.
We do not know for sure, even at this point, whether we are going to have face-to-face teaching on Monday, teaching and learning on Monday the 4th, because of what is happening in relation to the COVID, the spread of COVID-19 and the extent, the low take-up of the vaccine, even though that it is picking up.
The Prime Minister said they are awaiting the recommendation from the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment, which will be presented to Cabinet on Wednesday, where a final decision will be made.
You remember the earlier guidelines which they set out? If the positivity rate in the country is at such and such a level and the number of vaccinations at a particular level, what you will have. They have a scale. A sliding scale set of recommendations, and those recommendations will now have to be applied in the practical circumstances as to where we are now. But I'm deeply, deeply worried about the uncertainties of the effect of not having face-to-face education for our children.
It was also noted that some schools may not be ready for reopening, as some are still being used as shelters for persons displaced and had their homes severely damaged or destroyed by the eruption of La Soufrière volcano.
We still have, well, as of Friday, we have 8 schools still being used as shelters with an aggregate of 117 persons. The 8 schools being Bayabu Methodist, J.P. Eustace Secondary, Evesham Methodist, Gome Methodist, Kingston Government, Lomans, Windward Anglican, Newgrounds Primary, North Union Secondary. They have 117 persons, those 8. I was told, well, between Monday and Friday last week, we had 2 important ones in the valley closed.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Gonzalez said Cabinet will also decide tomorrow, Wednesday, September 29th, whether to include teachers as frontline workers who are expected to get vaccinated under the Public Health Amendment Act 2021. So far, police officers, nurses and custom officers have been identified as frontline workers. Prime Minister Gonzalez said once approval is given, all rules will be applied accordingly.
Position applies. You have to take the vaccine. You have to take the vaccine, or you take the test. And you wouldn't, if you don't do that, you wouldn't be allowed on the compound. In that case, I mean, it may well be that on Wednesday, the cabinet may decide that in light of the uptick and what is happening, that teachers be included as frontline workers.
The Prime Minister said that he will listen to the medical authorities on their take on who to include as frontline workers, including teachers, noting that vaccination is an effective tool to bring back schools to normalcy.
If you are vaccinated, your risk of contracting COVID is reduced immensely, and of you giving it to people is also reduced. But if the teachers want that and the medical authorities support it, I will go along with it. But I suspect that some teachers who do not want to be vaccinated want to put themselves and those who are vaccinated on the same footing. I mean, the politics, the internal teacher politics of vaccination rather than the management of risks in relation to vaccination.
In other news, 80 educators and educational administrators are now better equipped to deal with students who are differently abled. They recently participated in a certificate training course in teaching for neurodiversity, building inclusive teaching and learning classrooms neurodiversity. The course focused on supporting neurodiverse students or students with different brain processes compared to what one will consider normative brain function. Speaking at today's virtual presentation ceremony of certificates to the participants, Senior Project Officer in the Ministry of Education, Joseph Green, said the participants should be applauded for accepting the challenge.
Now, it's your time to make a difference in the classroom. Within the next couple of years, we are hoping to see more schools being equipped and better prepared to become inclusive schools, where we can truly say that we are having inclusive education. I wish you all, graduates, all the best as you move back to your classrooms and implement the strategies that you will have learned during the week of training. All the best.
Green further spoke on the strategies that the Ministry of Education has been engaged with to improve inclusive education and special needs education.
To help to improve the delivery of education to these students. The training of teachers at varying levels continued. As we speak, teachers of the three special education schools in St. Vincent and Grenadines are receiving training to equip them to meet the needs of the students in these schools. There's also an in-service teacher professional development course which is taking place as well, and this is funded by the World Bank through the Human Development and Service Delivery Project. And again, special education is a component of this training. So the teachers will be prepared to deal with the differences in the students that they have to meet.
Instructor and representative of the Lesley University, Dr. Louise Mitchell, gave an overview of the course.
To the teachers and educational administrators who participated in the training, congratulations on completing the intensive one-week professional development series designed by Dr. Gooden and myself. It was truly an honor to meet you, engage with you, learn from your expertise, and contribute to your knowledge base on how best to support neurodiverse students in the classroom. During our time together, you completed case studies, reflected on your pedagogical and curricular approaches in the classroom, conducted organization analysis, developed new strategies for universal design for learning, and determined how best to support the needs of your students and their families. As a cohort, you examined best practices, current research, and practical tools to create inclusive environments for neurodiverse students who are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorders, ADHD, and dyslexia. This was all in alignment with Lesley University's history and commitment to teacher education.
A government with funding from the World Bank has implemented the Human Development Service Delivery Project. A news release from the Ministry of National Mobilization said one of the important parts of the project is the development of a comprehensive social protection policy and accompanying 5-year strategic plan. The news release said while there have been notable successes in SVG's development, particularly over the past 15 years, poverty and unemployment remain major development challenges that needs to be addressed. And in this regard, the government has prioritized the development of the social protection policy and strategic plan as critical strategies to reduce poverty and deprivation. According to the news release, the overall goal of the policy and plan is to map the way forward for the government to strengthen its response to the needs of the poor and vulnerable and to empower people to be healthy, become educated and trained, and be able to seek opportunities to lift themselves and their families out of poverty. An e-survey is also being employed to further complement the findings from the consultative sessions and to obtain the views on poverty and social protection from a wide cross-section of the Vincentian people to inform the policy and plan. The e-survey is commissioned by the Ministry of National Mobilization with the approval of the Statistical Office and designed with the specific intent of capturing individual perceptions of poverty and social protection here in SVG. To this end, levels of knowledge and attitudes of the Vincentian people towards social protection are gauged and defined and used to complement and broaden their understanding beyond that of the FGDS. The news release said the e-survey is a short, self-administered questionnaire shared via web links, SMS, to all persons living in SVG. The short questionnaire is comprised of 3 main sections: social protection, poverty, and basic respondent demographics. No personal identifying information is captured, and only aggregate statistics will be shared in the analytical report generated. The Laissez-Faire Relief Grant Program, facilitated by the World Food Program in collaboration with the Ministry of National Mobilization, will continue for another 2 months. In a news release, the ministry said that displaced persons who have qualified for the cash program will be contacted again via SMS to collect the next round of payment at Western Union this week and the following. The Laissez-Faire Relief Grant is made possible through the support of the Government of Canada, the UN Central Agency Relief Fund, the European Civil Protection and Humanitarian and Operations, the German Humanitarian Assistance, USAID's Bureau for Humanitarian Assistance, and the World Food Program's Immediate Response Fund. At least one structure along the Annisville Bridge was demolished over the weekend as the government moves ahead with a plan to renovate and upgrade the bridge to access a temporary schools and other developments at the decommissioned E.T. Joshua Airport. Chief Surveyor Keith Francis said that the person whose structure was demolished received prior notice several years ago. He said those who got 1 week notice met with him on Monday, and a compensation offer of $2,500 EC each was made and agreed to by the 8 small business operators, while the 3 residents will have their structures paid for, noting that he was also in receipt of a lawyer letter on behalf of the affected persons.
Some of the affected persons had a lawyer, got a lawyer, and the lawyer wrote to me, which I forwarded to the Attorney General and to my permanent secretary for comment. I am not a lawyer, so the lawyer was making certain claims that what we had done was illegal. So I had forwarded that for a legal opinion from the Attorney General. However, subsequent to that, I met with the persons, all of them actually, and I spelled out the compensation package that was approved by Cabinet, which included the cost of the structure and the $2,500 that's loss of income.
The chief surveyor said that a relocation site has not been identified as yet, noting that 4 of the 8 businesses have to be removed immediately.
They also wanted to find out whether or not the government would find alternate accommodation for them, which I indicated at this time we were not able to. So that package they got, and I indicated that of the 11 persons involved, only 4 persons would have to vacate almost immediately. Over the weekend, you would have noticed that some demolition work was done on the bridge, the bar that was there. Mr. Brown, who is the occupier of that, he came this morning actually, and we agreed on a price that was to his agreement as well. And the other persons that would have to move would be Ina Campbell, which is one of the fruit vendors. Another one of the fruit vendors on the other side of the road, his name slips me right now, and the butcher, Mr. Davis.
In the meantime, the other affected business operators and residents will be given some time to do their own demolition and find a new place to operate from.
Widening of the access road that leads down to where Mr. Davis' family lives and operates a farm lower down, that would not be an urgent matter, or as urgent as this one, so they may have a few weeks reprieve and they can stay there, and in the meanwhile they can seek to find alternate accommodation. Residents will just be paid for their structure, but of course they can remove the structure themselves. So while they're being paid for the structure, they can physically remove the structure and reconstruct it somewhere else, because it's a wooden structure, it's not a concrete structure.
Francis said that the construction of a bus shed in the area is near completion, and the pace of work on the bridge is dependent on whether school reopens next week.
In terms of they've started construction of a bus shed, and they've started works on the sidewalk that leads to the footbridge. And I don't know if you notice as well, the footbridge is to be built from the base of it will be built from utility poles. The poles are already on site as to when school is reopening, and that will either cause the works to be accelerated or to continue at its pace. So in other words, if school is going to be open online, then the rush to finish for Monday will not be necessary. But if it is that school is reopening on Monday, then of course there will be maybe double and triple shift would be expected of the contractor to get things in place by that time.
The business owners and residents who will be removed from the area to make way for the renovation work on the bridge are said to be satisfied with the compensation offer and the payments for their structures. 8 of the affected persons are business operators who received $2,500 AC each. Most of the remaining structures were locked up today. However, our news team was able to speak with one of the affected business owners and a resident.
Well, my own value 4,000 some plus the 2005 compensation, loss of business. And it's a half a loaf is better than nothing at all. So we're still glad that they came up with the decision to give us a little more time.
Well, I'm telling you, this was 3 years ago from this to come up. It's 3,500 in the car. And then the other people put on the ground, so it's $4,000. So in all, the whole thing card was $7,500. So they valid for $4,500.
Okay.
Yeah, they tell you that they will pay me for it, and then we could move it and locate somewhere else and get it paid.
Good. They wanted for good use, and my boss, Peter Miners, he feels like he won't be affected. He could just use the money and do it in another spot.
The residents say that they are not yet sure where to relocate and are hopeful that a spot can be identified for them soon.
Trying to do that way, when I get the money, if they pay me for it, I get the money, I could use the money and build that. Because if you know the concrete floor, build like a concrete floor and fit it, move and build back. You can't complain, you wouldn't say gold.
Relocate? No, because we are nowhere to relocate as yet. We identify a little piece of land just above Braxton there that they could put this shop. So he said we have to go back to our representative, with Mr. Curtis King, and and then they have to put it to cabinet and see what can be done.
Due to the impact on the wildlife by the eruption of La Soufrière volcano, the Forestry Department is considering to make some changes to the opening of the hunting season, which begins annually on October 1st and ends on January 31st. This has been noted by Director of Forestry Fitzgerald Providence on the Face-to-Face program on NBC Radio on Monday.
The open season for partially protected species, it begins on the 1st of October. But however, due to the impact of the volcano, we're considering looking at some changes to the wildlife opening season. We are awaiting confirmation in terms of at the cabinet level, so we have to hope and just continue to educate the public in terms of when the season would be open and if there would be any changes to the season as it opens.
This hunting season will give hunters the opportunity to hunt partially protected species.
Partially protected species, under our Wildlife Protection Act, we have totally protected species such as the St. Vincent parrot and our snakes. But we have partially protected species, which includes the agouti, the opossum or manikou, the iguanas, and also we have birds like the ramé pigeon that are on the partially protected species and therefore are open to hunting at a particular time of year.
The forestry director further elaborated on how the wildlife species were impacted by the volcanic eruptions, noting that there were dead parrots found in the forest.
In terms of death, we had someone had called us in for a parrot, but it didn't survive. And then we had a farmer who said he saw about 2 parrots that were dead. But in terms of the other wildlife, which are not so mobile, like the agouti and the opossums and so on, which is opossums are nocturnal, they live in trees and so on. We concern that the ground dwellers, where the ashes covered a lot of the ground, that they may have impact on the populations, and that's why we are concerned. And this has not only come from forestry, but from persons who are familiar in hunting and going out there. They're concerned in terms of the status of the wildlife in the northern, particularly the northern part of the island.
In some police news now, we hear that investigations are ongoing into a report of burglary made by a 62-year-old female nursing aide of Richland Park, USA, against some unknown person or persons. The assailant or assailants reportedly entered the apartment of the complainant as a trespasser and stole several electronic devices valued at $4,580 US and 500 EC dollars in cash. The property of the complainant. The incident occurred at Annesville between Sunday, September 26th and Monday, September 27th. Persons with information that can assist with this investigation are asked to contact the Deputy Commissioner at telephone number 1784-512-467, the officer in charge of the South Central Division at telephone number 1784-458-4200, or any police station or police officer you are comfortable with. All information the police say will be treated confidentially.